Welcome into the BeMore podcast. This is the best coaches in the world, Shauna, Kinsey, Kyle. Not so much me. I'm just here for the hosting duties. So today we're going to do a coach's corner. This is something we're going to do probably every 2 months or so. We're just going to hang out, talk about mainstream things, what's silly, what's not silly, what our thoughts are, kind of all that good stuff. So, you guys excited?
Yeah.
Cool. Are you guys excited about the new gear?
Yes.
Oh, the new gear is great.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than the mustard was cool, but
I like the mustard.
yeah.
Our pipes
These
are
are
frozen.
warm.
So
Your pipes are frozen?
yeah, so mine is in the wash machine.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, you told me that yesterday.
All right.
Shoot.
So here we go. Here we go.
I'm in the yellow.
All right, so today we're going to talk about challenges, the open, macros, stretching, and then whatever else we kind of want to dive into. We won't spend too much time, but let's just get it going. So the first thing, new year, new me. Everyone does challenges. We actually just finished up a century challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
That members did multiple classes the last couple weeks to hit their 100. So,
Yeah.
I guess anybody, what's your thoughts on challenges in general?
At least they got it in. I mean, I personally love challenges, especially in terms of working on something that maybe you're not good at or maybe that you want to improve at. I did the 100 push-ups a day for 100 days. I don't think my body could handle that again, but it was a good way just to obviously improve my pull-ups, chest and triceps. So I like them. It's just, you have to find the right balance between, you don't want it to be too long to where you fall off, but you want it long enough that it's at least challenging and does some benefit to your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of like you said, too, with the you wouldn't want to do it again.
Not 100 push-ups a day. For
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
Say I'm
right,
good on
right.
that. Maybe like 50 push-ups a day for
Yeah,
50 days.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it has to be relative to the person,
Sure.
and not. I mean, like when there's influencers that are throwing around big challenges, I think that sometimes sucks because it doesn't take into account so many factors. What is your current exercise, previous exercise history? If it is specific to exercise, what is your movements like? If it's diet, what have you done in the past? Is there something that doesn't sit well for you? So to say like, hey, we're going to do a 30-day juice cleanse, but you have some you have some eating stuff that you're not really good on, it's not going to be as beneficial for you. Or even doing, a lot of pull-ups or double unders, more often than not for me, I've seen people hurt themselves doing challenges than actually helping themselves, so I guess, would you guys agree there's a better way to do challenges?
I think challenges in general are good to be mindful of, but again, make sure you know why you're doing it and what you're doing. Obviously you're great at push-ups, you're doing good form when you're doing push-ups, but some people are like, oh yeah, I've never done a push-up, so I'm gonna do 50 push-ups. I don't even know how to do push-ups.
True.
So it's make sure you know, first off, correct form, second off, what your body can handle, the volume. But I think it's good because it puts it in the front of your mind, you're going to be better at whatever your challenge is. You're going to be better at it at the end, regardless of how much you're doing, because you are doing more than you're currently doing. Mm-hmm. So, I really like getting 10,000 steps a day. That's great. It's low impact, but it gets you moving, gets you outside, and it's just very low key. It's nothing too crazy. So, yeah, I think challenges are great depending on what it is, but maybe seek guidance if you're unsure before you do a challenge, and then figure out something that works for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Shauna and I were talking about consistency, right? That's really what it comes down to, is building some sort of pattern, consistency, whatnot. I think that's kind of the most important part, right?
I think for me, I agree with Kyle and Kinsey, and you too, because
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I like challenges to a point, right?
Yeah.
But like Kinsey said, at the end, you're normally better at something if you don't get hurt. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of people pushing if you're not doing it properly. I see a lot of fitness influencers on actual social media who have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're not even doing it properly, but they're holding challenges. I think what caught my eye this year that I thought was pretty funny is there's this let's be better movement right now, like let's not count all of our calories. Let's try and, love who we are. And there's so many pages doing that right now. And then come the first of the year, they all had $50 challenges, every single one of them. And I'm not someone to call out on, I don't use social media like some people do, but I really thought about it. I just thought it's hysterical come December how all of these influencers now have challenges that cost money, and they're making money off of it, so I don't know. There's a love-hate for sure with most of it.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing them sometimes. They help me get a little bit better on things, but I have to watch myself because I start things too, and then I just flail, and if I don't follow through, then that's in your psyche of, I don't know. There's just all these things that kind of can go wrong in my head sometimes with challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is. I mean, me personally, I've had some really good habits come out of it. So I've done 3 and 6 month macro programs, and it really educated me on portion control.
Yes.
I could just crush protein like meats, and eat a lot of it. And I found out that I was eating a little too much, causing me to gain weight that I really didn't want. Whereas actually sticking to a macronutrient program made me realize it's hey, you need to eat less here, a little bit more here. And then I kept those habits even after my 3 and 6 month macro programs were gone. So it can be super educational, but once again, it just depends on what it is. Right?
What you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're doing something, I'm doing following some macros right now. I've seen a lot of change in about a month, and I'm pretty excited about it. But I'm also not eating 1,200 calories, so it's just there's a way to kind of destroy things, and there's a way to do things, I think, properly and make sure that you're not following something that's going to hurt you or make you unhealthy or something like that too, make sure it's credible. And like I said, you're not overworking out and under eating. There's a lot of things that can go well and wrong.
Well, I think in most things, progressive is probably the most ideal way to go, right? So you could do a challenge. You could do a push-up challenge, but maybe day 1 you start with 10. And then day 2 you start with 11 and 12. And maybe each day, you progressively increase. And that's the point. Like you said, program. I don't know if it was a macro challenge or a macro program, but that's the difference between a program and a challenge.
Program,
It's like a challenge. A challenge is meant to give you a time trial almost. And that's why, Whole30, I love Whole30. But myself personally, it's not sustainable, and it's not meant to be a sustainable thing. It's meant to get you some guidelines of what feels good for eating, and then you could start to incorporate some of these other things, right?
Yeah, it's a reintroduction. It's really to help guide you to what is going on in your gut, and then you reintroduce the foods, and if, dairy isn't doing well, then maybe that's something that, you don't add back in on a daily basis, or maybe you find balance with that. So, yeah.
Speaking of dairy, do you know why cows have hoofs?
Oh, God.
I don't know.
Because they lactose.
Oh.
All right, I like that one.
That one's funny.
Yeah, that one's great.
Brecken String Cheese told me the other day that you can lead a cow up the stairs, but they can't actually walk downstairs.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
They're not physically able.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Don't get them up the stairs.
Take away that from
Okay.
this podcast is
Yeah.
the
We're
dad
done.
joke
Yeah.
and the fun fact. So I kind of said sort of a progressive challenge. Do you guys have any other thoughts or guidelines, I guess, that people can use whenever they're seeing a challenge? Because challenges are fun. We've all done them. We've had the Century Challenge in CrossFit Loveland, and that was meant to promote, consistency within class, that sort of thing. And I think the beauty of not only CrossFit, but doing challenges is you learn from them, right? So maybe you do a double under challenge and your knees are blown up and you're like, okay, maybe 300 double unders a day doesn't sound good. Maybe I start something slower or something, a little bit lower and then kind of increase over time. Do you guys have any, guidelines, piece of advice?
I would say a good way to approach it as far as fitness, just because I've done a lot of fitness related challenges, is you can do it like by the week too. So you can say like, okay, I'm going to work on 3 things every single week. So I'm going to work on this thing Monday, the next thing or Wednesday and Friday. So like 3 days I'm working on my weaknesses or whatever I want to work on, but it's very progressive. So I'm not doing it every single day. I think I don't really like doing anything fitness related every single day because that's just a lot of wear and tear on your body. Not very sustainable. So for fitness, that is something that you can do is just break it up into weeks. Don't do it every day. And if you do decide to do it every day, just do it like very little, like 10 push-ups a day or something. But yeah, I'd recommend just breaking it up by day. And then also like lifestyle type stuff. I had a goal last year of reading a book a month. And so that is like very doable, but it was something I wasn't doing at all. So it was something I had to start thinking of. But I was able to achieve it. And now because of that, overall, I just read more. And that was my goal, was just to read more. I didn't have to. Now this year, like I don't have to read a book a month, but I'm reading more because now it's a habit. So
Yep,
Right.
love it.
And that's it, is creating those habits.
Yeah.
And I think as humans, we tend to dive a little quicker than we should. And maybe we just need to practice a little bit on the sideline before we actually go toes first into something that potentially breaks us down, you know? So yeah, even something here at CrossFit Loveland that we've done is, you know, you start with your 2 weeks of something, kind of try to create a habit, and then carry that along with some new habits, you know? So even the challenge thing, if you wanted to create, just use it to create some new habits, you know, just start slow. I think that's the huge thing. Like just right off the bat, it's like, oh, let's eat way less. Let's do more. Let's, you know, and you can't throw it all on your plate and expect to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, they hit the nail on the head. I think it's just putting yourself up to succeed by setting realistic goals, you know, not doing it every day, maybe doing something per month, and then just go based off how your body feels, you know, especially in terms of having expectations of I need to do this every single day. Then all of a sudden you fall off a day or two. You're like, all right, well, I guess this isn't going to work. And you completely ditch it compared to starting off like 3 to 4 days a week, a couple times a month, something that is achievable, and then progressing to maybe more frequency in terms of like days or whatever challenge you're doing.
Yeah.
It's very rare people are going to be more upset that they started slow than started off too hot and injured themselves and fell off. You know, it's very, very rare. So that's
Set
kind of like
yourself up for success.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's hard to go backwards.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of success, we got the Open coming up. So
Nice.
in the same breath,
Yes.
you know, there's, especially in the CrossFit world, there's 2 things people prep excessively for. It's the Open and for Murph. Do you think prepping for something specific in a general sense, not in a competitor sense, in a general sense, do you think it is silly to prep for the Open or Murph or Murph?
no, I don't think so at all.
I think it's
me
fun.
neither.
No,
Yeah.
I think it brings out the weaknesses, you know. Murph each year, I've done it differently. You know, sometimes you break it up. Sometimes you try and do it all the way through. Like, there's just so many ways to better yourself and to be, I think it's fun.
I think it's fun. However, if you're going to prep for one of those, prep for it the whole year. You can't.
Yeah.
I think it's like,
So right.
you know, January comes, people
start
are like,
January.
I'm going to start working on my pull-ups now so that I can get them in a month. That's not going to work.
Oh my gosh, I've heard so many people say that already. What about my pull-ups for the Open?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
January 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to get muscle ups. Cool. How many pull-ups you got? Well, like 2. All right.
With the band.
With the
And
band.
they're kipping.
Kipping banded pull-ups.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's a cool goal, though, to shoot for if you're able to, you know, remember it or like think about it 6 months to a year in advance. Like, for sure, it's a great thing to prep for. It's a great thing to keep you motivated to work out and
Want to learn new things.
yeah. Then it's super rewarding when that time comes and you're able to do Murph unpartitioned or do your first muscle up. You know, that's sweet. That's really cool. But yeah, just know it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the challenges, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, it's not gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
You just got to give it some time.
Even after 30 nights, it's not going to open. Well, and that's what I was kind of relating to, you know, and for the programming that CrossFit releases, they've been very heavy on like open style workouts, which is fine. And the thing that I think I don't always agree with is emphasis on something on something like that, right? Our main goal is to be healthy. And so when we're healthy, both in fitness and in nutrition, we're always ready, right? It's like that motto, stay ready.
Right, you're balanced.
Same idea, right? Where the open can be in February, it can be in September, it can be tomorrow, you know. If you've been consistently putting in the work, and even if you are playing with your macros or whatever it is you're doing, if you have the basis down, you'll always be ready for it, right? There shouldn't have to be this whole cycle 30 days that's only open prep. And like, if you're a competitor, that makes sense, you know, and you're peaking at certain times, that's a competitive side of it. But for us individually, that kind of falls in line with the challenges. It's like, oh, there's 30 days to the open, better start cranking out a bunch of handstand push-ups.
Right.
You know what I mean? Doesn't always, I'm not going to say never, but it doesn't always end well.
Yeah.
I think with this new programming that we're following, I think they, the CrossFit.com, I feel like they have a lot of prep work throughout the months. Like each month, I feel like they work on something different and kind of prep you throughout the year too. But not everybody uses that programming. And we haven't always used that programming, you know, but I have noticed that they do have like monthly things. And we've been doing that a lot lately too. Mobility and just working on things monthly to help, I think, build for these type of things too.
Yeah. It's supposed to be flexuary. Whoops.
Ooh.
Oh, flexuary.
Flexuary.
Well, the thing with the open is obviously you never know what you're going to get, right? So you can't exactly prepare for one movement. Like you can have an idea, like double unders are always on there. Wall walks seem to be something that are consistently on there. So I think it's a good idea. Like Kinsey said, you know, 6 to 10 months before the open, it's just, you know, working on your weakness. Like, well, what's your weakness? Like, what do you want to get better at? That way you're more well-rounded. And that way when the open does come up and there are wall walks or handstand push-ups, you already have that base to work from. So yeah, I do like open prep. I personally always like to tinker around and try new stuff and see, just try to get, you know, better and well-rounded. So I really do like when our programming throws in repeat open workouts. I think that is fun just because they're a different beast, and you know, some people have done these previous workouts, so it's always nice to see where you're at compared to where you were. I was really hoping they would throw out a repeat open workout from last year just to kind of see where I'm at.
Hey, the open's still.
I know. Well, I don't know, man. We got a couple weeks, right?
The open's going to come.
Yeah, they're probably not going to throw out a repeat open workout during the open. So
Hey, they have, dude.
They have not.
Yeah, they have.
A repeat open workout the week of.
What do you mean?
So
Like the week of the
week
open.
of. So let's say we're on the second week of the
I
open.
got you,
They're
I
not
got
going to
you.
throw out. All right, do 22.1.
You never know,
I don't
bro.
know.
You
I
never
don't
know.
That'd be pretty crazy programming.
Maybe they'll say. Maybe they'll say
I don't think they're going to do that.
Maybe 22.1 will be 23.1.
Yeah,
Who knows? I think that's something cool though with the open is that they've done is done repeat workouts. I think that is like everybody. I'm not gonna say everybody. CrossFit community loves fluffy, gorgeous, cool looking workouts, right? The open is meant to test your fitness, a well-rounded fitness, and you can't really do that in around 3 workouts. However, CrossFit's thing is repeatable, observable data, right?
Right.
So I liked how they went back to even just repeating. No, it doesn't matter. They're going to repeat it every single year. Like, I love how they do that because when even in our programming are we retesting? You know what I mean? We'll see sometimes the girl workouts or like Murph comes up. That's always a good retest. But when are we seeing the same workout? You know, other than our lifts that come up from time to time, but sometimes it's a 3 rep versus a 1 rep versus a 5 rep versus an EMOM. Like, I love that about the open. That's what CrossFit was made for, was to see how much fitter we've become sort of in this past year.
Yeah.
So you never know, Kyle.
No.
CrossFit's Constantly
I'll put a
varied,
little
bro.
money on there, bro. You're
Very-
saying during the 3 weeks of the Open, they're going to throw out a previous Open workout like the Wednesday before.
The thing is, they said that they are not changing their programming at all because like it would be unfair if they knew what the Open workout was and sort of prepped for
True.
that. You
Yeah.
feel me?
I respect that.
Yeah. So
I remember last year, it was either before the Open or quarterfinals, and they had, like, I was just doing their programming. They had this, like, gnarly lunge workout, like, 2 days before the workouts were released. I'm like, yeah, it won't be
no.
lunges. It was lunges. I, like,
Really?
could not
All
even
right.
move. It was so bad.
Wow.
I was like, wow, this is, like...
Constantly varied.
constantly varied, dude.
Yeah.
Stay ready. Yeah, no, the Open's always a fun time, and I think too, I might see it more, or we might see it more for Murph. You know, is everyone just gets super crazy on their pull-ups, push-ups, and running and squats, and those are movements that because they're body weight, you can do a lot of reps. But as the doctor knows, and all of us know, a lot of reps in a short period of time without a good amount of recovery is not.
Especially for pull-ups. I see
Especially-
a lot of people jack up their elbows because they're trying to like toss in 50 pull-ups a day because Murph's around the corner. And it's like, and they get to Murph and they're banged up and they're frustrated with how they do. And it's like,
Well,
maybe the lead up to Murph should have been different.
well, you haven't been running for a year. And you just threw a vest on and sprinted a mile. That doesn't really make much sense.
Oh, youch.
Moving over to sort of a nutrition topic. Are macros a waste? Do you think for the general population, macros are a good thing or a bad thing?
Talk to me, Shauna.
Let's go Shauna first.
I think that like Kyle brought up earlier, I think that everybody should try it here and there, just to see what you're eating. I don't think people really realize what they ingest on a daily basis until you really kind of look at it. We move through the day very sometimes non-existent, you know, and then we get home and you really don't know how many handfuls of cashews you've grabbed. You don't really know. I mean, sometimes you don't even remember what you had for lunch, right? So I think I've done it a few times where I've really followed it to the T, and it can get tedious for sure. But if you have a baseline of just where you kind of need to be, I think it can also be easier. I think once you kind of watch it for a few weeks, you could make it much easier. I don't think you have to weigh out every ounce of everything, but there's easy ways to make it easier. But I think tracking them definitely helps you to realize what you're eating, especially if you're working out, how you're fueling your body, just the basis of macronutrients. I am amazed at how many people here at the gym ask me what a macro is, you know? So just even knowing that what they are, that you can eat them, to not fear the food. You know, some people too, it's like, oh, we don't want to eat, you know, super different categories of foods, right? So we just eliminate a whole category. But it's good to know what carbs do for the body, what fat does for the body, what protein does, even the micronutrients, you know, just kind of even watching some of those. Yeah. I don't think that everyone is going to probably do it in their lifetime, but I think for those of us who are at the gym trying to achieve goals, I think it is something smart to just kind of recognize. I've been doing it for about 30 days. I've done it before in the past. I've seen huge changes, lots of growth, strength. I'm following CrossFit, the Zone. This is the first time I've ever followed that.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it.
And explain the Zone really quick.
So it's 40% carbs and then 30 macros and 30 fat. In the fat, you know, the fat and carbs can be interchangeable.
Is it 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30%
Fat?
Yeah, protein.
Yes,
Yeah,
protein. What did I say?
You said macros.
Oh, macros.
It's like, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what's a macro.
I coached
No
this
wonder
morning.
people ask.
I
No wonder
know.
people ask what a macro is. They're like, I thought that's a protein, but a macro's in steak.
So it's protein, fat, and carbs. And the real the real research is on the protein. I think once you hit your protein, you can interchange the other two, but it gives you somewhere to kind of be. And to start off with.
Does it give you a calorie base? Are you worried about calories, or are you just worried about hitting your 40, 30, 30?
I'd stick more to the macros.
Cool. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, we can all follow a calorie, but that gets obsessive. And then you start wondering, some people don't like the amount of calories. I
Like
think
the number.
Yeah,
They look at the number and
they
they're
do.
like, whoa.
I think it's easier to just give them, some macros to follow.
Yeah.
Without having them.
Love
And
it.
unless you hit certain buttons on some of those apps that you follow, like you don't even see the calories. So if you're just following macros like on MyFitnessPal, it's just in that macro, you don't even have to see what your calories are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think calories can be a lot like the weight on the scale. It messes with people's head.
I think so. Two things. One, what I love about the zone is it's saying eat this at every single meal.
Yes.
And that was something you touched on the other night, and it reminded me why I believe like the zone was so effective, because it's not promoting that obsessive diet culture, if you will.
No.
It's promoting a balanced plate every single time.
It is. Yep.
And we've
Trying to find. Yep.
Yeah, and we've sort of talked about our tiers, right? We say eat whole quality foods first. We talk about calories after, because it is a good understanding how much are you eating as far as calories go. But macros, I mean, if you really want to dial things in, macros are the easiest way to do it, and what I like about macros too is that you can have a scale, or you can just estimate in a sense, right? And there's
can.
like certain, like whatever a palmful is like carbs, or however many carbs, or whatever it is, but there's estimations that you can get relatively close without obsessing over the
Even just
scale.
that plate, half side veggies, and you can add some carbs in there. So on your half side, you can have, your salad and some potatoes, and then you still have your fat and your protein, So that half side of whatever you need can be different too.
Yep.
So, yeah, you have lots of options.
Yeah.
Kind of easy to follow. I think there's definitely growth within it. Just watching the strength build is kind of fun.
Yeah. What about you, Kins?
So I think macros overall are, like you said, like definitely good for the individual to know what they're eating. Because a lot of times people are too low on protein, super high in fat, a lot of carbs, regardless of what you like. So just knowing where you land and maybe some adjustments that you can make that make a huge difference. And it's just tiny little adjustments, like adding protein to your snack instead of just eating like, bread or whatever for a snack. Or like, just figuring out your numbers, figuring out what works for you. A couple things for people that eat a lot of whole foods, minimally processed foods, just a lot of really good quality foods are going to be pretty close to their macros without them even tracking. And I know that from experience. There was one time when we decided to track my macros, and I don't care about tracking my macros, but I was like, this is good to know. I work out a lot. I need to know how much food that I need to eat to fuel my body, because I want to gain strength. I want my lifts to go up. I want to have energy. I want to have fun working out. And in order to do that, you need to eat enough food.
True.
So I was like, I'm just going to track. And I found out I was pretty close. There were a couple areas that I could improve on. And so I was just mindful of that and was like, okay, I'm going to add more protein into this or more fat into this or whatever. So just doing it one time just to see where you're at, and then figuring out what you need to do. That's a great way to have macros without getting obsessive about it. And then also, one thing that could be kind of a downfall is if you track your macros a lot. I feel sometimes you'll get to a point where you're not hungry, but you're I need to eat 300 more calories, and that's calories. So it's a little different, but let's say it's I need to eat 10 more grams of carbs, but you're not even hungry. So I would recommend doing it for a month or whatever, get super used to it, and then you're saying, create good habits. So then you don't track for a while and you're well, I'm really hungry, and so I'm going to grab an apple Whereas before you might be like, nope, can't grab an apple. I've hit my carbs for the day. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely ways to go around it. I think it's helpful, but I don't think it's necessary long term.
No, and it's not meant to. They
Yeah.
talk about that a lot in my nutrition courses that I've taken. But yeah, you're not meant to be doing this full time, cutting all that crap. Like your body, you shouldn't be doing it long term.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, the macro program works for me. You know, I'm all about being objective, and you have to know what's going in your body in order to make some sort of change, whether it's gain weight, whether it's lose weight. So by weighing and measuring your food, yeah, it is super tedious. But once again, if you do it for 1 to 3 to 6 months, after that, you're going to get a really good idea of maybe where you need to be if you want to gain or lose weight. So I really like it. Personally, when I did, what is it, 6 months, and I leaned down and I got stronger the end of last year. And the crazy thing to me was for so long I was like anti-carb, but during the work week, there's come like noon to like 2:30, I would crash hard. I would have to hammer down some like caffeinated bubblies or coffee, just something to stay awake, because I wasn't eating any carbs, because that's what worked for me in college. But granted, like I wasn't eating any carbs, but I was crushing like 12 beers and maybe like a pizza at the end. Like my diet was just all over the place, but I could stay lean just by limiting how much carbs I could eat. But then once I actually ate them and realized that, hey, I actually need to tone down my fat and my protein, I was able to lose weight, and I just feel so much better during the day. Like you see me eat my PB&J around like 2 o'clock. It gives me so much more energy just to keep rolling. And yeah, carbs are great. And I didn't know that until I did this macro program and found out what I was eating and what was going into my body. So super helpful tool. But yeah, I'm not going to weigh and measure my food for the rest of my life, but I'm going to intermittently do it just to make any sort of weight or fitness related goals for anywhere from like 3 to 6 months.
I like that.
So you just do it like a couple times a year?
Intermittently. Like I'm doing it right now. I'm probably going to do it until like April or May, and then
He's doing it for the
that's
open.
kind of what I thought.
Are you prepping for the open?
it just so happens to be in the middle of it.
No, I agree with all of that. I think like anything, these tools could be used or abused, right?
Yeah.
I messed with macros enough that I've enjoyed the benefit from them, but I get really bored very easily. So when I have to do things, and like I don't like people telling me what to do. So when this thing says I can't have this, sweet cheesecake for dessert, I just throw my phone away and just eat it. But no, I think to your point, there's 2 points there. One, people don't eat enough, and I think like there's this whole fear around carbs, and carbs shouldn't be feared. In excess of refined carbs, absolutely. If you're smacking McDonald's twice daily for several months, that's going to be very different. But if you're having a peanut butter and jelly because that's what you need,
Or some fruit.
or some
whole grains,
veggies,
right?
like there's carbs are in literally everything else. Even rice. I mean, rice
is so good.
It's a
dude.
huge staple in mine and Kinsey's.
Same here.
And Kinsey and I never ate it before because
neither.
we're like, oh, it was a
Yes,
carb.
dude. I
It's
thought the same thing.
yeah, it's bad for you if you eat too much. So there's 2 things, and I think this is where the macros are a good thing. Are you eating enough to support your fitness? And that's CrossFit's thing, right? Eat enough to support your fitness, not enough to support body fat. What's that number? We don't know. That's what you have to figure out.
You have to play around.
You have to play around with it.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is like, because, when you're eating whole foods, and you're staying away from sugar, we automatically think, oh, it's a low carb diet. And potentially paleo is a more higher protein, but not necessarily low carb diet, and like a more less refined carbohydrate diet. But, if you find what works for you, I think, like you said, even if you use it for a month, just to kind of get a baseline, and now you go to dinner and you're like, okay, cool. This chicken breast I need this, and I need, these portions to make my meal balanced, right? And if you do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's all you need.
Yeah.
It's also super educational, because like even when I'm tracking my macros, like I go out to like eat and I'll have like 2 big New York slices of pizza and like a couple beers, and I load it up into my fitness pal. It's like, boom, you have no more carbs and fat for the rest of the day. It's like, oh my gosh, like if I just had this and then I went home and just like gorged and ate more chips and all that, I would be way over. And it was like, okay, so now when you go out to eat, maybe 1 slice of pizza and like 2 beers.
Right.
I love how
I'm still not ditching the beer.
Right.
I love how the beers didn't change for sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
But it's,
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
think it's a good
even
tool.
where Kinsey comes back, or you were kind of talking about it too at one point, but just finding that value, the caloric value in your whole foods. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like if you just kind of follow what you, what you're ingesting a little bit, but
Yeah.
like how Kyle says, like, you don't really have to worry so much if you're not downing pizza every day.
Yeah.
For
You know, some of those refined carbs and some of those higher fat meals, calorie meals, they can kind of take over real quick.
Real quick.
But it just helps you to find a little more balance and to know that some of those meals do just kind of take you down.
Yeah, right.
You plummet and then you're eating steak the rest of the day if you want to
if
try
you
and hit
if
your
you
macros.
if you had one beer, you would be fine. But when you have the two
And pizza.
and pizza, it
Yeah.
takes you
It's like, okay.
takes you way
Yeah.
over. Well, and it is kind of frustrating. So I've been kind of watching calories just because I don't really care to track macros, but at least calories, right? I'm doing so much more fitness, especially like endurance stuff. So there was a point that I was like working on all my endurance, but I was only hitting like maybe 1,700, 2,000 calories, and I should be well at 3,000, right? Based off how much fitness I'm doing. So it's fun to see that, but then it's frustrating because like I'll plug it into my fitness pal and I'm like, I just had this hearty breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, 500 calories? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
I
So,
know.
you kind of, but it's anything like that is just a gauge, right?
Yeah.
I'm not plugging it in every single day. As soon as I entered it in my fitness pal to see my daily intake, I said, all right, I am at 2,400. I need to try to find, 600 more calories. I got rid of that. And then Kinsey mentioned, throw in some snacks. Maybe
Yeah.
it's some fruit. Maybe it's some, apples
Nuts.
and peanut butter, some
Yeah,
nuts, that sort of thing. So use these all as tools, right? Or
Right.
just as gauge. Don't use it as a one
End all
fixes
be
all.
all,
One,
yep.
yeah, that thing. Whatever
Yeah.
the word was. I
Yep,
forget what I was
yep.
going to say. Anything else you guys want to talk about macros?
I find one of the biggest complaints other than weighing and measuring your food is people feel like they have to eat the same thing all the time. And I'm a mutant like that. I can eat the same thing during the week. Like my snacks, my lunch is pretty similar. So I see where they're coming from. Like I said, I don't have a lot of variability, but I know some people have some pushback. I mean, I don't know, Sean, if you heard that, or Kinsey, like, in terms of just
Kinsey's
like,
also a mutant.
Yeah.
Like you.
yeah, are you? Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
like
it's
I will
easy.
eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Me too.
I like dinner. We like rotate like 3 different meals,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like that's what I eat. Lunch is pretty much the same. Breakfast is the same. And I could do that forever.
Me too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll use yellow mustard. Then I'm like, I'm going to do deli mustard today.
Change it up.
Whoa, don't go too crazy.
I was actually just going to bring that up before you started talking.
Yeah, I was too.
But I like have those overnight oats, and I kind of just know
Yeah.
I can get good protein, I can
Yep.
get good carbs. I could eat it every day. So sometimes I forget to make it the night before, and then I just the next day I'm like, okay, now I got to figure this all out, But I can usually polish off a couple meals with just something that I'm always kind of eating.
Yeah.
And then dinner can vary based on children usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I get hyped because now Supernatural Eats has 6 different meals instead of 3 different meals, and I am so excited.
There you go.
Yeah.
So excited. So now I don't have to eat the same thing at all. So I'm very different than all of you. And of
varied.
course, like I have my favorites and we all have our go-tos, but it doesn't have to be bland. Like there
Oh,
is
it doesn't. You can use
in this little device here, there is millions of different recipes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they don't even take that long, like based off what you're already doing now. The first time, like we have this one recipe that we love. It's Thai basil turkey. And like at first it was overwhelming because it was like new stuff, but I don't have to look at the recipe now. I can
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
it, and it's one of our favorites now, and it's different. It's not just eating turkey and rice. It has some flavor.
Yeah, switch up your spice, switch up your like dressing, like an oil and vinegar based dressing, and you get some good fats in there, or mustards, whatever. I don't know. It's
Mustard is his
Mustard's the
favorite.
best.
mustard's so good. Audrey won't eat chicken mustard anymore. Like she would just to like entertain me when we first started dating. She's just like, no, I'll
She's
just
like, nope.
I'll cook
I'm
something
done.
different.
I hate it.
Well, Manny and I don't eat the same dinner anymore. We
Yeah,
tried.
yeah.
We have a few recipes that we'll do like that turkey, but Like most of the time, we're like, "Do you want to just go on your own? It's easier."
Yeah,
We're like,
the
"Yeah,
same
that's
conversation.
Yeah, people find it so weird. They're like, wait, you don't eat the same thing?
We're like,
no. I'm like, well, sometimes like share rice, but even
Yeah.
rice, I'll do coconut rice, and Kinsey doesn't really like coconut rice, so she's like, I'll just make my own rice. I'm like,
Yep.
all right.
Our households sound
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah. It's the millennial
That's right.
millennial couple dinner now.
Yeah, then we both enjoy it. We eat at the same time.
Yes,
That's
we eat
important.
together.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Different stuff.
Yeah, my Chick-fil-A gets ordered right when Kinsey finishes her dinner, so it's perfect. It works out great. Cool. All right, the last topic I kind of wanted to chat on was, and I think this one's going to be kind of fun just based off of everyone's experience. As far as people gaining mobility, that seems to be kind of that other hot topic within CrossFit space and in the gym. Is stretching better? Is strength training better? Is banded mobility better? Is foam rolling better? What's going to be the most ideal way to improve your mobility? And it's nothing specific. It's just general mobility.
Yeah, I'll start this one off. And it's the PT answer no one likes to hear, but it's very, very true. It all depends. My main thing is that
No one likes that answer.
no one likes that answer, but it really does.
I think
'cause
it's a good answer,
yeah,
though, for this
I mean,
one.
it really
Yeah.
does, because if you do have some tissue shortening and you do lack mobility, yeah, absolutely. You need to mobilize that muscle or that area or that joint. But I see a lot of people that they think they're tight just because things feel tight, but they have full range. They're just not strong in that position. So a lot of times when things feel tight, it can be because they're weak and those muscles are just hanging on for dear life because they don't have the stability or the endurance to keep up with some of the stuff we do in here. So I think it's a real big combination of both. I think, especially in terms of CrossFit, it's really pecs, lats, and ankles, I think, are really the main ones that I see a lot of lack of mobility in. And then just in terms of strength, so we do a lot of movements that are just forward, backward, like squats, deadlifts, push press, lunge. We're always moving in the sagittal plane. We don't really strengthen things in the side to side or rotational plane. And that's where I think you need to add in more strength. So any sort of like banded rotations for the hips or the shoulders, that stuff that isn't necessarily built into CrossFit, but you need that stability in order to, lift big weights or do some of the metcons that we do. So I think it's a big combination of both. It just depends on what your body needs the most.
What about you, Yogi? What do you think? Shavasana every day?
No. I like what Kyle had to say because I like to get strong, but I have chronically tight hamstrings. Like, it's just bad. So I could probably be better about a lot of different things. I tend to use CrossFit probably a little more than I should for my things.
What things?
Like, need to go to yoga, and I've signed up for some classes, and it's just really hard to walk away from CrossFit and want to go to yoga.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that
So-
was my main question for you was when you were, because there was a time when you were doing yoga just as much as you were doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
Did you notice any benefit from doing the two together versus now versus only
Yes.
yoga?
Yeah. And I can tell now too, like even in my, how even my bending has changed, like I'm not as flexible as I was when I was doing it more. I think I just feel like I have a little more tendency for injury. Like we had a lot of hamstrings last week, and there was a point where I was like, did that just tear or or am I?
Are we talking micro? Yeah, with you or as you were coaching, watching?
With me?
Oh my gosh.
Just tear.
Or do I just need to stretch a little more, So, so I've noticed that I could be better, but I have a hard time walking away from CrossFit sometimes and wanting to do some mobility, which is what I'm trying to engage on a little bit more now, within the challenges I have for myself.
Do you think people could benefit from yoga or long static stretching for, holding, 1 to 3 minutes at a time, do you think that could carry over to CrossFit fitness? Is it the same answer as Kyle? It depends.
I say yes, just because we noticed it even with Kyle when we had that month of just different things that Kyle was doing. People kept doing them because they felt good.
Yeah, that's great.
They go back to them. I just think that, dang, I had a word and then I forgot it, which is it's part of my life. But I think that people can benefit a lot from the stretching. We always offer mobility at the end of classes, and it's amazing to me the amount of people that don't just stay for 5 minutes and leave to skip. I'm one of them. Like, I'm just as bad as they are. But even just with the soreness, like talking about rolling, like that type of stuff, it helps with so much more than just the mobility factor,
Well, and even in in terms of breathing, too, doing something like yoga. I mean, you could probably breathe when you're, rolling out or when you're doing like strength work, but I feel just like even allowing yourself an hour or a half hour to do some yoga or some long stretching just to get yourself some time to breathe, decompress, relax.
Well, and even learning how to lay in the snow while breathing, it helps you to do hard things. I know you laugh at me with my breathing, but I do feel like when I use my breath, I can do things better or lift heavier.
For sure.
And I don't know how yogi you want me to get with that, but I am an air element. So, air is my thing. I knew you were going to laugh at me.
I'm a fire. Do you know what you
No,
are?
I have no idea.
You are definitely fire, though.
I don't know what that
You
is.
could totally take on most of things.
Oh my gosh.
Like Kinsey comes through with fire.
Kyle. So it's Kyle then.
I think you're water. I believe you're water.
Oh, you're October what? 20th?
23rd.
23rd. And what's your day?
September 24th.
September 25th. Oh, my sister. So you're water.
Water.
Yeah, because I think my
big
mom.
deal.
Yeah, my mom and my sister are both water, and water's my calming element. So I do really well with rain and water, but I do use breath for my strength, and I don't know if that has to do with being an air element or not.
Maybe, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe because air and breathing.
You breathe in air.
Pretty
Breathe
vital
in
here,
air.
right?
Yeah, you
Breathe
use
out
the
air.
air.
Well, Manny hates water.
I hate
so
water,
I don't
so-
know.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I really don't.
That's
Like
weird.
not drinking it, but like swimming.
Yeah, I hate drinking water.
Yeah.
I'm a big cola guy,
I'm a big cola guy.
Stevia, whatever.
Stevia.
The
Whatever that
aspartame.
is.
Yeah. I love me some high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, let's do it.
Very
Straight on down.
Fits my macros. So
Yeah. So I just do. I think stretching could be beneficial for all of us. When Coach Kyle said it's different for everyone, you had thrown out a lot of stuff there. But I think essentially, stretching could be beneficial for everyone.
big time. Well, and even people who don't exercise. You know what I mean? You
Especially, right?
Especially, I mean, you think, what is our life become? It's become sitting in a chair, hunched over at a desk, right? Like that's literally what or you're commuting, whatever it is, we're in this position so much. So what does that end up being?
Right.
Tight up front, tight up back,
Right.
Weak on the backside.
weak on the backside.
And
kind of
if
all
you in the foam rolling, I mean that can be good for so many different things. I mean, even just letting like soreness, just getting that lactic acid
I like it.
moving, the fascia, like all that stuff, So I think it's beneficial in different shapes and forms.
Sure.
When I think like everything, just like all that we've talked about is like, you can't just do one and expect it to fix everything, right?
No.
You're not just going to foam roll it and immediately, be cured of all of your limitations. There's all these other pieces to it, but that doesn't mean, foam rolling doesn't work. Like it does, but you must do other things as well.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if
and there's balance.
if it makes you feel better,
Yeah.
dude, if the only thing that works for you is you foam rolling your back every single day, but you feel so much better,
then
freaking do it.
Yeah. I have friends, I have yogis who are into some pretty good, rocket community, sculpt community, that type of stuff. They overdo it. I mean, yogis, I have a dear friend with knee issues right now. So I think we can all overdo it, I mean, depending on you know, what you're doing and how far you're pushed. I mean, some of those yogis can be a little crazy.
Yeah, yogis are a little crazy. Speaking of crazy, Kinsey, I'm curious. I feel, and this is why I asked Kyle and Shauna, because I feel like you incorporate both pretty consistently.
Agreed.
Do you feel
Yeah,
a difference based off of, say, something that's more of a loaded approach, kind of like what Kyle was saying, like banded work, barbell work, whatever, versus Shauna, which is a lot more stretching? I mean, I feel out of all three of us, you probably do mobility work in one day than all of us do together in a week's time, you know?
Yeah. So
I'm not being mean.
no.
I got something for Kinsey when she's
No,
done.
Kinsey's
Yeah.
very balanced, I think, about a lot of things.
She's literally the best.
Gross.
It's that fire sign.
Dang, now we wish we were a fire.
I like being water.
You're water, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think it's like so specific based off like what is going on. So yeah, it really depends. I think stretching is really good if you are very strong and you need to stretch out muscles. I think stretching is needed for strength training. They just go hand in hand. You just need both of them. I think I've had a lot of injuries, which I've gone to Kyle, and they've been, you know, minor injuries, like not broken bones or anything. And the things that he's given me are strengthening. And that has been a game changer, which is so crazy because I'm like, you want me to do like this exercise and that's going to help this injury.
Well, and you were a dancer too.
Yeah.
So flexibility is just
always mobile.
You're
Yeah.
always very, very bendy.
Yeah. Yep. So I think strengthening is really good for those little aches and pains that you have. Because like Kyle said, it's probably a weakness somewhere else. Like if you have a pain here, it could be a weakness here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally different. Or when we were running a lot, my hamstrings were so tight. And so I was lacrosse balling them, foam rolling them every single day. And it just wasn't helping. They would feel good for like 10 minutes, then tighten up like even worse. And so I found out that my glutes were weak. And so that's strengthening. So that helped with the tightness. Also, when we were dancing all the time, we'd stretch our splits like for 5 minutes at a time. But realized when I quit doing that, my hamstrings felt much better.
Yeah.
And like when you're a dancer, you know, you're part of the judging for competition is on flexibility. So you have to be like overly flexible. So that's a time and a place for that. But another thing with dancing is it strengthens all those little muscles that Kyle was talking about, like that rotating. You're constantly being rotated out, where CrossFit strengthens the big muscle groups, like the front, the back. No one really does the sides, and the side is needed for front and back. You just need full, well-rounded. So strengthening is really good for muscles that you usually don't use like at all.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I noticed when I quit dance and did way more CrossFit is all these little weaknesses. And now I've worked with Kyle to rotate my hips, and that's made like such a difference for tons of different things, not just like the tightness or the injuries that I had, but tons of different things. So, yeah, I think it's just like you need everything.
Yeah, sure.
That's a lot of fun stuff.
And
yeah.
and a great way to strengthen all those little muscles that you may not do in CrossFit. I mean, you can speak to it. How great did you feel after working all that single leg strength in terms of lunges, in terms of box step ups? I mean, how do you feel now after doing that for I don't know how many months? Right?
Yeah, so I was just doing like simple bodybuilding, like nothing crazy at all, and it like made a big difference with CrossFit, with everything. Like I felt bulletproof now, whereas before, like I'd go into class and I'm like, I think I just tore my muscle doing that workout, and now like you finish a workout, you're like, wow, I feel like I can walk the rest of the day. Like I feel great, so it's like, Yeah, that strengthening.
Single leg strength's huge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
single arm strength as well.
Well, and learning too with his ankle mobility, I shattered my ankle and I don't have mobility, and almost every time I run, I get knee pain, and he brought it up. You probably get that knee pain, and I'm like, oh yeah,
like that whole thing.
So it is, like you said, it goes into so much more than just, your everyday functioning.
When like Kinsey came to me and she said like, oh, I feel like X, Y, and Z hurts and I feel tight. I was like, okay, well, let's check out your mobility. She crushed the whole mobility stuff. Like it was so easy because like, oh, you're super flexible. All right, well, let's dial in some specific strength and see what's going on and if it helps. And it did, right? But if we would have just came in, it's like, oh, that feels tight. Oh yeah, let's just keep stretching it and keep stretching. It's like things aren't actually going to get better because it's not a mobility restriction. You're actually weak in some of these areas, and we just need to strengthen you in those areas.
Yep.
Big time. So then last question, and then we'll get wrapped up. So then you do stretch a lot.
Yes.
So why do you, what do you feel, what benefit do you feel from stretching? And you go to yoga pretty frequently, right?
Nice.
You say maybe like once every other week or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that more for mindfulness or?
A lot of it is mindfulness. A lot of it is, just because it feels good. It's nothing specific. I go to yoga because I like the heated aspect of it.
And everyone complains about the heat
Me
in
too.
here.
That's my favorite.
Yep. Like you just get like drenched in sweat. Your body is so mobile. Like you're just getting like so much blood flow. It's just really nice. And it's very different. Like you're just super warmed up, which I really like. And I don't know. So there was a while, like in the summer, I usually take kind of a little break from hot yoga just because it's a little bit much to come out of a 100-degree room into 100-degree weather. So during those months, and then I come back in the winter time, I do feel a difference. Like I'm very tight coming back into yoga, just not used to all the different movements. So I do feel a difference. And I would say like being flexible like that has helped in, squatting or mobility in my shoulders or something. However, I've seen just as much a benefit as strengthening my glutes, to help my squat, or strengthening my lats to help my mobility in my shoulders. So, yeah, like I said, I think it goes hand in hand. I personally go to yoga and do all that stuff just for mindfulness.
Cool.
Just like me time stuff that's not like driving myself into the ground during a workout. It's just a little more, like stress release, that type stuff. But I just think it's all a little bit needed for people. Also, one other thing I was saying about the mobility after class is something is better than nothing. So like, if you're like, well, this is only 2 stretches, I can just do this later, or I won't miss much or whatever.
They don't do it later.
They don't do it later.
I know.
No.
I don't even do it later.
Nobody
there's
does
no
it
way.
later.
I do it later.
But like something's better than nothing.
Yeah, but
so like,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
exactly.
Kyle, Kinsey, or Kylie do.
Yeah, because they're better than us.
But like, don't think you have to do an hour of yoga or an hour of mobility or an hour of whatever. Just do like 1 or 2 stretches. It takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I don't really give the 415 an option. I
Nice.
just kind of make them do it.
Nice.
Right?
Noted.
everyone
All
grab
right.
PVC pipe.
Gross.
Everyone get advanced.
You are not leaving until this is done.
That's why
Yeah.
also when Kyle says, all right, we're taking these lunges from the floor, everyone's like, yes, sir. And Shauna's like, what?
I'm calling it audible. Hey, I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
What is an audible? And people listen to you when it's not on the board?
Oh, I love
It was crazy though during that mobility November, whatever. Like we would do those stretches, and at first people are like, "We're stretching in the middle of class. Like this isn't a workout." But once people did it, like everyone's like, "Whoa!" Like it was so.
Feel pretty good.
Yeah, like I can like actually move during my workout, and it was awesome. Like
Yeah.
it was really cool. I think it opened people's eyes to.
And agree with me here. Mobility is meant to open a window for you to improve that strength and range for that
Yeah.
For
movement,
sure.
right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
that's like the other benefit to it is it doesn't just fix it. It's just, if your shoulders are tight and you do a banded lat stretch, once you're done there, get a dumbbell, do some tempo presses, do some rows, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like that's what it's meant for. It's,
100%.
it's not meant to cure.
Now
it.
you're loosened up, and now you can strengthen those ranges that you didn't have earlier because you're more mobile.
I love
And
it.
after yoga last month, we had some members bring that up after the community WOD that they just felt stronger or,
Nice.
just different things like that. So.
Yep. Love it. Cool. All right. That's all we got time for. Hey, coaches, thanks for doing this.
Thank
This
you.
was fun. I've been wanting to do this for over a year, so thank you guys. Thank you guys for doing it. We finally got on the calendar last minute. So we'll do this again. If you guys have anything specific you want to ask these wonderful coaches, just let us know. And until next time, peace.
Bye.